If you're hearing some noises, it's our landscaping blowing the leaves around in our backyard. Hello, pickleball world. It's your girl K Dubs and your girl Jilly B, and we're back with another T-Boy, the best one yet, with an amazing lineup of topics that I'm sure will make you want to tell a friend. Speaking of which, hit subscribe, click those alerts, and share it with everyone you know. But we are looking forward to some great Jilly B questions for beginners and for tournament players. And we also are going to have an excellent by the numbers segment where we're talking about money. We are playing a game to 11. This is Pickleball podcast number 7. Let's get it cracking. Let's go.
You're tuned in now to This Pickleball Life. I'm K-Dubs and Jilly B is my wife. She's the pro and I've got the filler. She's sweet to me, but on the court she's a killer. Unadulterated and efficiently bringing you the best and worst things in PB. Tell your friends and stay for another. And no one loves us more than your mother. One thing's for sure, one hit and you're addicted. Grab a pile, grab a court, don't resist it. So click subscribe, let's go, let's get cracking. Theme song done, let's go, let's get laughing. This Pickleball Life.
We just read the funniest article hating on pickleball that we thought we would be remiss not to share with our fans by the ever intelligent, humorous, and well-written Rick Riley in the Washington Post. You wanna hit us with some snippets?
Absolutely. Yo, what up? It's your girl, Jilly B. And we're going to read this Rick Riley Washington Post, at least a few snippets from it. So Rick says, I'm 65 now, which means that according to federal law, I have to start playing pickleball. But I don't want to play pickleball. I hate pickleball. I'm fine with AAR peers all over America loving pickleball. Great. Play until your arch supports melt. But why do you have to constantly tell me about it? Why do you insist I start playing with you? I get it. You moved less than 18 inches in each direction for 2 hours. You hit a greenish ball a lot, and you beat Ed and Nancy Finkler in 3 games. Sports Center will be right over. Look, I tried it. I didn't like it. Not as fun as ping pong. Not as elegant as tennis. Not as pretty as golf. It was a lot of people who hadn't played a sport in 30 years suddenly thinking they're athletes. Man, 3 hours of pickleball today, my buddy will say. It was epic. Reality check. There's no epic in napping, crochet, or pickleball. It's a game in which 2 mostly very old people like me whack a plastic wiffle kind of ball at 2 other mostly old people like me who defend an area the size of a rug like the one in my bathroom. Besides, it's not a sport. Any game that you can take up after breakfast and be pretty good at by lunch is not a sport. And it's not great exercise. A Canadian study last fall found that an hour of pickleball gets you only half as many steps as simply walking an hour. No, it's like tennis, pickle pushers will argue. No, it's nothing like tennis. Riding an electric bike doesn't make you Lance Armstrong, and playing pickleball doesn't make you Roger Federer. I've watched Federer run the equivalent of 3 New York City blocks on a single point. You could play pickleball for a month and not run that far. I'm going to pause there.
Ouch.
Ouch. I have quite a few rebuttals.
I was going to say, how do we
mind?
rebut each of these? Starting with my whole take on pickleball as exercise, which is exactly as much or as little
as
exercise as you let it be. That's why it's magic.
That's why it's magic.
You can be lazy and you can walk less than walking if that's your
And that's
aim.
great. If that's your
good
goal.
for you, yeah.
And if you want to be psychotic with your footwork and run around like me, great. You're going to get a workout. And in fact, you're going to be sore after 2 hours, whereas all the other pros can play 9. I'm trying to learn how to move less and conserve energy.
Totally. We'll have to cycle back to that a little bit when we recap the clinic, because I felt like that was the theme of you and Sarah.
And not as fun as ping pong. Sorry, that's about the dumbest thing I've ever read. Elegant as tennis. That's fair. Tennis is elegant, I guess. Right. Not as pretty as golf. Yeah, we're not trying to be pretty. We're irreverent. I do agree. A lot of people who hadn't played a sport in 30 years suddenly thinking they're athletes. Again, the magic of pickleball. Mm-hmm, you feel like, yeah, your mom, right? She was given back the quarter from after being
tennis lesson,
being charged for her first ever tennis lesson, and the instructor handed her back her money.
She got the refund because she was so bad.
Yeah. Like, no, she thinks she's an athlete now, and I think that's awesome. And here's another beauty. Any game you can take up after breakfast and be pretty
Yes.
good at by lunch, that's the magic of the game. I always say, what do
Absolutely.
you always say? It's like skiing.
I do.
Easy to get good at.
Oh, versus snowboarding,
Hard to
as they
master.
say. Yeah.
Like pickleball's easy to get good at, hard to master. That again is part of the magic.
Absolutely. This just in, my mom loved the article.
How about this? This might be my
Live
favorite
tweet.
my favorite part of the article. Somehow picklers manage to get hurt. When I call my buddies to do stuff, half the time they're injured. So far, they've had a torn Achilles, ripped rotator cuff, blown out knee, pickleball elbow, and a black eye. Remember, kids, every time you see a new pickleball court open, an orthopedist gets a
boat.
new boat. True.
Keeping doctors in business. So yeah, that's another thing. I do think that people get injured because they're not being lazy enough. Like sometimes just don't go for the ball. And, I have a bum knee and now a bulging disc in my back or something going on. And I tried to play yesterday and I was like, yeah, 2 days ago I could have gotten that one. But it's fine. Move on. Hit a better third.
That might have been from 8 hours in a plane yesterday or 2 days ago.
Oh, for sure. No, it's not from pickleball. Sitting is the new smoking. And I had to sit on 2 planes, not play for 4 or 5 days while we were at the tournament spectating. But I'm not complaining. Just keeping you appraised of my life. Something's going on with my throat today.
Rick Riley, I'm going to send you some paddles. I'm going to come find you. We're going to have a private lesson, and you're going to love pickleball. You're going to love it
win 'em
so
over.
much that you're going to think there's no more beautiful of a noise in the morning than the sound of that plastic wiffle ball smacking against the carbon face of your honeycomb paddle.
Let's go. Sedona, watch out.
Here we come.
That's apparently where Rick Riley has now moved to in his AARP days.
We'll be publicizing his exact address in the comments of the pod, so you can go and, throw pickleballs at his garage door. Just kidding. But I will be doing that.
So we're gonna segue into North Carolina, but before we do, I wanted to inspire some comments in our YouTube channel. I know you can't necessarily comment on your Apple Pods or Spotify, but hop over to our YouTube channel for the video edition of the podcast and let us know which of Jill's outfits were your favorite this week, because they were on point.
Thank you.
And we spent some considerable thought power in figuring out, the combo of colors and outfits. But what you started with the pink kind of magenta top with the Jack Sock Anna Lee match.
Got a lot of DMs like, where did you get this? I'm on
Yeah.
Lululemon right now. I can't find it. What's it called? Tell me, I need it. Where is it? Consumerism. Give it to me.
And then in the second day, you had the blue, right?
I don't even remember.
No, we were gonna do the blue, but then you did inverse instead. You
Inverse,
did the pink shorts
And black
the
top.
black top.
Again, Lulu.
I love that like loose crop top.
Thank
where
you.
it's sort of
Yeah.
flapping in the breeze.
Yeah,
And
so
sometimes we get a little more ab, sometimes we get a little less.
What I've learned about dressing myself for pickleball, and this is a lesson I learned when I was doing fitness and athletic modeling from 15 years old on. I did modeling for Gap, Athleta, Nike, Golfsmith, Adidas, and others. I learned if you feel ridiculous, you look good. And that's for like posing for photos. I'm like, okay, stick your butt out, arch your back, stick your boobs out, tilt your face, stick your neck out. Do you feel absurd? You look great. If you feel comfortable in what you're wearing,
You look like you're in a lazy boy Barca lounger.
you look like you're homeless. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you're not going to look good on television. So yeah, I have been putting a little bit more time and thought into my appearance and my outfits. But one thing I'm not doing is wearing a full face of makeup. I'm actually shocked by how many pro players, when I see them up close, I'm like, you have so much makeup on right now. It would be
Stage makeup.
dripping stage makeup, right? Which is another thing. If you're going to take a photo or have a photo taken of you, you usually want like a lot of makeup on it, stage makeup. Then you like look good in the photo. I just can't do it. And it's funny how many like DMs I get on social media. Like, thank you for not wearing makeup. Like, thank you for being natural.
Yeah, no, totally. Speaking of which, indoor, no sunscreen. I mean, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity to see Jill without a
20,000 pounds of sunscreen.
sunblock, white sunblock. But I think some of your sunscreen may be mistaken for makeup sometimes.
Kristin has forbidden me from wearing the color white anymore since it gets ruined with all of my colored sunblocks. But,
literally.
Yeah, no, indoor pickle's really interesting. You know, I joke that I probably wouldn't have gone to North Carolina had I done a modicum of due diligence on the fact that it was going to be indoor. I always really struggled to play indoor tennis. I grew up in Southern California. I played tennis at Pepperdine University. And my memories of playing indoor tennis traveling in college were during like ice storms in Madison, Wisconsin. And again, 2 years later, an ice storm in Texas. And we were playing indoors at both. And I was like blind as a bat, and something about like the lighting and the lack of wind and the lack of sun and natural elements and like how loud it is inside. And you're hearing like the people right next to you and you're running into them. And I just had all these like traumatic memories. And then we went to go play indoors in North Carolina, and I had my contacts, but boy, was it still really hard to see. And again, like no excuses. Everyone had the same environment, the same, right? Visuals. But Sarah Ansbury, my partner, who was awesome and still is just an amazing partner. We had so much fun despite not having great results, even though we made it to the quarters. She was having trouble seeing too. I just think everyone was. Yeah. But some people might be a little bit more adept and well-versed at handling those vision issues. And I don't know what I would have done differently going in. You know, I had my contacts.
Speaking of which, how do you pick a side when
So that's the other weird thing. I felt like we kept picking the wrong side. I played on center court twice, and both times consciously chose to start on what I thought was the better side. And then when I wasn't playing on center court, again, consciously chose to start on what I thought was the better side, meaning you have a backdrop of some kind. So you're not having to look at the ball through this like 1,000-person crowd with different colored shirts, and then the ball disappears. Every single time we ended up playing better on the other side. So,
oh, I know what it is.
What is it? You warm up?
You play better when you can see the fans adoring.
Oh, that must be it.
Like the fans are giving you an energy flow that is propelling you to your peak performance. And when you're back to them, you just don't know how much they're loving it.
You totally nailed it. And, you know, we were at, I believe, 7-all after just like an epic long rally that many of you may have seen online already against Annalie Waters and Catherine Parento. I think we had the lead for like 1 point. And we had to take a timeout after because we were so exhausted after that point. And part of me wishes we hadn't, because I think we had some good momentum. And as Dave Fleming said on the broadcast, you've got a lot of people watching this match right now because you could feel that momentum palpably shifting. Yeah. And then we just could not get the stack unwound to save our life. So Sarah was going to the ad side, and we just lost like 3 points rapid fire.
For those of you who don't know, the ad side is the left.
The left side. And we just couldn't. We spent the whole first game of the match trying to unwind the stack. We lost 11-1. And Dave Fleming says they should really stop trying to unwind the stack. And I had said to Sarah a few times, I think we should stop trying to unwind.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, I'm just a hair slow to get to my spot. I'm going to get there. And the courts were so sticky. That was another thing. The courts were so sticky. Yeah. It was hard to move around. And so I think she was having a little trouble getting her spot. We lost the first game 11-1. So then we were really like focused on not unwinding in the second game. We should have. And my point is, don't be afraid to not do something in one game and change that in the second game. Like it's a constant evolution. You have to be responding to the fact that when we were at 7-all, all of a sudden they stopped returning the ball to me. Or they stopped returning the ball to Sarah. Catherine and Annalie didn't want me crashing to the net. Mm-hmm. They started returning really deep to me. So like your opponents are constantly evolving their strategy. You have to too. When you take that time out at 7-all on center court against the number one team in the world, you bet your ass that they're on the sideline getting coaching about what they need to change. So you have to be prepared to change too. Mm-hmm. And it's like we were stuck in our world of, well, let's just keep doing what's working. Well, that's old news now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of the sticky courts, is that another indoor thing? Like they don't get as much wind and dust, so they don't like wear in?
That's a good question. I need someone smarter than me to answer that, because these were stickier than normal, yet most of the courts before our PPA tour events are resurfaced. So you'd think like they're all equivalent stickiness. But yeah, maybe
Thursday.
sun, wind, like a hair more of play and elements does get them a little less sticky. I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing about that Sarah match versus Annalie and Catherine was the way that they lined up the matches. It was like all these people had been waiting all day for a women's match. And they had like 5 men's matches. And I got to the bench and I was seeing if I could squeeze my friend Devin in right behind us to see if anyone was leaving. And I like kind of polled the people behind your bench. I was like, is anyone, taking off before the next match? And they were all like, no, we've been waiting all day for this match. Finally, women are on the court. And it was cool to see the excitement that people really had.
I'm loving the excitement that's coming from center court. I think PPA is doing a great job with like DJ Selkirk. And I think I'd love to see the players hype up the crowd even more. Like I'm always trying to do that. I can't tell you. Probably my favorite part of North Carolina was after my center court matches, the people coming up to me saying, I think you're the most entertaining woman in this sport. It's such a joy to see someone smiling, laughing, having fun, interacting with the crowd. Like, I caught a ball moving probably at like 60 miles an hour from Annalie's paddle off the kitchen right between my legs. If you haven't seen this, like this is not self-promotion. This is actually pretty funny. Go look at it. Like she hammers a forehand and I
still
catch
don't
it.
know.
How did I catch it? Like use your paddle, Jill. And then I kind of joked around and I like popped my legs out quickly so it looked like I was laying an egg on center court. Like it fell right from, my vajayjay, bloop, right onto the court. And I just think we're out there because we're supposed to be entertainers. And there's more than just, obviously we want to win, but there's a lot more than just winning. It's being a good example for fans, for kids. Like I can't tell you how many kids' water bottles I signed and paddles and hats. Like we're out there to be examples. We're out there to have fun. We're out there to entertain.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what to like throw to the crowd next because someone was like, you should be throwing out, I think Ben said this, sweaty wristbands and visors and shirts and
start wearing a wristband just so you can throw it. Maybe you can throw them your empty electrolyte bag.
My first question was like, who wants my sweaty anything?
Oh, I think there's a few takers out there for that. So we jumped ahead a little bit to the Women's Day, but let's rewind to Mixed Day. Another new partner.
I'm gonna rewind one more even harder. Sarah Ansbury and I taught a clinic, which has been so fun. We've been teaching these clinics right before some of the PPA events. And what was born from that clinic was this concept of pickleball's first ever professional academy. So Sarah and I have spent 10,000 plus hours on the court, really learning how to play professional pickleball with super limited input, advice, and coaching from anyone. I mean, Sarah basically wrote the book on coaching pickleball. And I think you've got these 3 stages of your life. And this is something our hosts, Diane and Lana, who were amazing in North Carolina, talked about. You learn, you earn, and you serve. And I don't want to say I'm out of the earning time. That's still obviously important to us. But I'm feeling more and more compelled to serve. And I have been dying to start what Sarah and I are starting, which is Road to Pro Academy, pickleball's first ever professional academy. And we're going to do 3 sessions, 2 in Southern California, June and August, and then September in Hilton Head. You have to be a 4.5 player or higher to apply. We're only going to take 16 per location. And this is Sarah and I wanting to give back and help all these up and coming pro players understand what took us years and thousands of hours to figure out ourselves. This is an underserved community. We're charging like nothing for this. Very, very little. We're going to provide housing. I cannot wait for this. I'm more excited about this than if you told me I was going to play Jack Sock and Annalie again first round and get my butt kicked on center court, which also was really, really fun. And I'm coming for you, Jack.
Yeah,
we hit every ball to you. That was the mistake. We should have hit more balls to Annalie.
How do you beat a person taking over the court, right?
Which takes us back to now Jake Kusmider, the Lion King.
But first, if someone is interested in your Road to Pro Academy, would you like them to reach out via thispblife@gmail.com? Have you posted the
We're going to post more information on that today, Tuesday, May 9th. So by the time this podcast is out tomorrow, you may already have heard about this. Send it to a friend, tag a friend. again, literally cannot wait for this.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I mean, as a lot of people have said over the last couple years, the men's game is always gonna, be more easily deeper when you field these MLP teams. Now that we have 24 teams, and really strengthening the women's side to make it a real shakeup going into next year when the teams are going from Premier and Challenger and having to fight their way up, and it's just going to add all the excitement.
It's so funny because for over a year we've been saying the game needs more female athletes, and the big reason I came back to the game was I felt like I kept waiting for it to pass me by in the year that I was retired, and then I'd go out and hit a few balls against a pro that was visiting in town, and I'd be like hanging with her or beating her, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm still in this. So I'm so thrilled that I come back to the game, and 60 days later there's Vivian Glozman, Tyra Black, Judith Castillo, all these girls out of the woodwork. It's like, could you guys have like waited, just give me like 60 more days to shine, Now I've got to contend with like people 10 years younger, also good tennis players, getting good partners. Thanks a lot. I'm so thrilled for you. No, I'm obviously kidding. I do think it's great.
Nice to be a veteran grandma at 33.
And she's got the drop volley. Glozman can do it all.
No, I think it's awesome, and obviously we're starting this academy to help all of those players.
Absolutely. And
it is ironic.
What's actually cool about pickleball is bring it. Like, here you are against the number 1 and 2 women in the world, Catherine and Anna Lee, and you had them tied 7-7 in the second. So like, seemingly however good we can get all of these girls, it only just wins for the sport, because it's still a game that like anyone can win once you're at this level.
My favorite phrase. My favorite phrase: every blind squirrel gets an acorn.
Yeah, of course.
Purposefully incorrect, I say that. But the parity week in and week out is, as you said to me, it's getting really good. It feels like it could be almost anyone's game, except for the fact that Annalee's unbeatable.
14th Triple Crown, but who's counting? Apparently the Dink. So yeah, let's also, I wanted to mention some highlights from the clinic that you did do for regular human adults that are like my skill set, and trying to.
Hey, if you get your duper up, you could apply for the Road to Pro. You're 4.2.
Goals.
You can get to a 4.5.
I'm gonna have to start trying. But I thought it was interesting seeing the two of you banter in the clinic, and how Sarah kept saying, well, Jill can do this, but regular humans like me, have to approach these shots like X. What was your take on some of that?
It was the first time I'd ever heard someone with her teaching prowess like analyze my game, and I didn't realize all the weird unsustainable things that she thinks that I do. It's probably why I do so many tweeners. Actually, again, if you haven't seen the tweener video on center court, or my 19 Ernies against Catherine, I had to hit like 7 Ernies in one game to win a point, in 1 point to win a point. Go check it out. But I think it's a function of like how wide I spread my really long legs. Like, if you're tall, it's hard to play pickleball just standing straight up. It's why you'll see like Deckelbar, who's really tall, literally like go into Scorpion and like get his knees on the ground. He doesn't do that by like spreading his legs really wide. He just can go down he can squat very quickly. Whereas with me, I just spread my legs as far as I can. And that's probably why the tweener comes so naturally, because it's already like open there. They hit it right in front of me. It's bouncing. I just put my paddle backwards. But yeah, hearing Sarah say like, you're really long, you've had to adapt your game to that freakish limb length, and people who are short have other advantages, and here's how they play. It really harkens back to what my mom always said about tennis. There's no weaknesses in tennis. There's just strengths. Yeah. Everyone has different strengths, and having a good coach that can take your physicality and build your game around your natural strengths and your natural physicality is really important. Don't try and play like me. That's probably unsustainable. It's probably going to hurt your legs. You probably don't want to be reaching out that much. And that was what I took from Sarah.
Yeah. She mentioned something about not getting a kink in the hose, as in like having a bunch of like sharp bends in your elbow and your wrists and feeling like the flow. And it reminded me of my golf instruction. So I liked that part where it was like, yeah, it's not that you have to be stiff and straight and reaching. It's just that you're finding flow all the way from your feet up and out through your hands and feeling that sort of energetic flow through your body, not having any kinks in the hose to stop that.
She's such a great instructor and a great player, and the way she can deliver like visual metaphors like that, like the kink in the hose, I think helps a lot of players understand their game better.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there anything else that stands out that you heard her say or heard us say?
Well, I still think that it's an interesting kind of world of pickleball, not just you and Sarah, but all the different, pros and instructors we've encountered along the way that have different theories on what's right and what's wrong for different level people and what's like just the ultimate truth. Like the Jim McLean Golf School, we always used to say there's like these 22 things that everyone does, but in totally different ways. And I think that's kind of the same thing.
And it's like, I don't think there are really these like 5 fundamental universal teaching truths to pickleball. Frankly, the game is evolving so quickly that what was applicable even 6 months ago, what you would have said was like a fundamental truth, I don't think applies.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Other than get the ball over the net one more time than your opponent.
Well, yeah, look at the game, 2 years ago, it was reach in, take every single thing in the air, and you still see some old school players who've been around playing for 5 years who are playing like that. Now you look at Anna Lee and even a lot of the guys letting it bounce, taking a couple steps back, speeding up from 3 feet behind the kitchen line, because then they have that much more time to respond.
Yeah.
Like the game's getting faster, the paddles are getting faster, players' reactions are getting better, we're all stronger, we're all working out. So then how does the game evolve to combat those new elements? So yeah, it's real time evolving, and we need instructors and information and education to help the broader audience understand those evolutions.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a random segue, but yesterday when I was playing, I got back something that my partner was shocked that I got back, and I turned to him and I was like, well, that's the benefit of just watching a bunch of pros. I just think everything is gettable.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people could adapt their attitude a little bit in that regard, because I even one of the other people we played against like hit a high shot and was like, oh no, like she had already given up, and I was like,
whoa, keep
dude,
going.
I'm not that powerful. You could get that.
100%. I think a couple keys that everyone listening to this podcast can work on to unlock in their game is you can get every single ball back.
Yeah.
Like, don't roll your
You don't have
eyes
to be diving like so Elise just to get a ball.
Don't roll your eyes when you hit a little bit of a high ball and think like, I'm never going to be able to get that back. You can get back everything.
Everything.
Like
It's
literally
a wiffle ball.
Everything. It's a wiffle ball. Like, do not turn your back. Do not shy away. I think a key that helped me this weekend, and by the way, this is so funny. Like, have you ever noticed that the thing you're the most worried about going into a tournament never manifests? So what I mean by that is when I used to play golf, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just hit like 50 slices on the range. I'm not going to be able to drive the ball today. And then I wouldn't miss a fairway, and I'd miss every 5-foot putt. Like, without a doubt, every single time I think stepping onto a pickleball court or the golf course that I'm going to have an issue with a certain aspect of my game, it never manifests. And so a perfect example of this is my dinks were so high. And usually I say like you can never dink too high for amateurs, but like mine were so high. I was really struggling going into my women's doubles day with Sarah, and super kind of antsy about it in the Catherine and Anna Lee match. I missed one dink, and I did not hit my dinks too high. I hit them perfect.
Yeah.
And I think what helped me the most was reminding myself that I play my best when I feel forward. Like when I feel like all of my movements moving towards the net, even like little shots, little dinks, third shot drops. It's like ski boots.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So think about this. If anyone skis, they know that your toes and the weight in your toes controls your ski. I should be letting you talk about this. Why am I talking about this? You're the
No.
gold medal
This
junior
is
Olympian.
what's great about your analogy is it's your experience with skiing, where
And Sarah
I have a different experience with skiing being that next level, in the same way that things might be like the golden rule for me in pickleball, but then it's like, oh, actually don't hit everything in the air every time, just when it's easy, and sometimes you got to let it bounce. Like you eventually get those nuances, but definitely I think it's true in skiing that you never want to lean back. Leaning forward, as my ski coaches used to always say, is like the control. It's the brakes. If you lean back, that's the gas pedal, and you go, whoo, shooting the skis out.
Interesting.
But that's how you feel control throughout the turn.
And I think
in
that's how
pickle-
I've started to feel more control in my pickleball game. And again, this is Sarah helping me a lot with this, frankly, is just feeling the weight in your toes going forward, not feeling the weight in your toes, not feeling the weight in your heels. And it's amazing how something that small of an adjustment can have such a large impact in your game.
Yeah, and it sometimes feels like you have to feel back in a panic, but the whole goal is, as you're backing up, to what?
Yeah, go forward.
Keep then getting your weight forward as you hit the ball. So you got to get back quick enough that you're then still moving into the ball.
This is probably like the biggest lie of watching pro pickleball is it probably looks like we're moving backwards a lot when we're hitting. But if you really slow it down, you'll usually see us moving backwards to grab a ball that got behind us. Stop. Go very still. Make contact. Move forward.
Yeah, I'll throw in that clip from Newport Beach. So that people can see that one point you pointed out the other day, where you like move to the midcourt, calm down, move in, and then also some points where you can see that back becomes forward.
Back becomes forward.
And we're going to take a quick break. I want to take this opportunity to tell you about our newest segment of the pod that we are about to add, and that is video review.
I love this point for so many reasons, because Emily apologizes halfway through and Ben's like, don't worry about it. And then you guys have incredible defense. I'm going to play the point. Really nice. Ben's communicating like, let's go up. And then Ben gets a put away and goes at Fergus. So I'm going to replay that one more time. So even though Fergus is a little bit of a sitting duck, the safer play is actually to keep going right in front of you at the person who's moving back on their heels and who's a little bit weaker.
But we want to see your points. To submit your video for video review, send us an email at thispblife@gmail.com. Don't miss out on your opportunity to get some free advice from the one and only Jilly B.
This pickleball life.
And we're back. We would be remiss not to circle back to your experience with the Lion King, Jake Kusmider. Not Kusmider, Kusmider.
Well, it was all very confusing for me to play with Jake, because there was another Jake, but right-handed, and his name was Luke. And
the evil twin. Just kidding, Luke. You're very sweet.
No, and they were awesome. And playing with Jake, such a supportive partner, such a raw talent. Those guys are going to be so awesome. They already are. Jake took 4th in men's singles. He beat Jack Sock.
And Dylan Frazier and
Zane Navratil. He had a tough draw.
Yeah. He was just like slaying giants all day.
He was just slaying giants. That's well said. But
Maybe
such a great attitude, such a crazy talent. We had a blast on the court.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun. We played Jack Sock and Annalie Waters first round. And I think we had a little bit of the wrong strategy going on. We hit a lot of balls to Jack. And I got to say, I was incredibly impressed with Jack's game. And obviously, proof is in the pudding. They went ahead and won the entire tournament. And I just can't wait to see how much better Jake continues to get. And also, I know from personal experience what it feels like to play 7 hours of singles. And then you wake up the next morning and have to play mixed doubles. That's brutal. So I think Jake was feeling it, but still played great. And again, just to have a supportive, fun, kind partner is I don't care if I lose both my matches. You
Must be nice to be 24 again.
Yeah.
But looking forward.
And then I couldn't help but be like, oh my gosh, you guys are like gorgeous, you're twins, you're charismatic, you're so good at pickleball. Like, how do we bring you to the masses? And I'm like brainstorming with them on, they should start a channel called Twinstruction.
Yes. What was the other twin thing?
Two Kusmiders better than one.
Yeah. The Lion King and
His
the
cub?
Lion Uncle. Does that mean he's Scar? Yeah, I really enjoyed watching the two of you play and was really happy for him in singles. That's his specialty, but he really obviously is working.
It's everyone's
hard at
specialty
doubles.
till doubles is their special. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Everyone starts somewhere. And it's interesting. He's applied for the MLP Challenger Shuffle Draft.
Yes.
And he has such an incredible energy. And as we've talked about in previous podcasts, I can't tell you how many of the best players in the world are not very good at MLP.
Yeah, it's a very different animal.
And to have someone like
thank
a
God.
Jake with his like roar and his energy and his like zest for the game and his supportive nature, I think would be a game changer for a team if they needed a guy. They needed someone.
No, totally. If you don't already know, the reason he has the moniker Lion King is not only his
Gorgeous mane of hair.
mane of blonde hair, but at the end of most of his games that I've seen, he will take his head up to the heavens,
Rear
and
his
put
head.
his chest out, and roar.
Roar.
And it's great.
It is so great.
There are a lot of people I think that have a cheer that can kind of rub people the wrong way sometimes, but I think Jake has that infectious sort of cheering where you're with him.
One of the players against whom he played didn't like the way his brother was cheering for him during the match. And I was there. I listened to every single word and thought it was completely above board. Maybe I'm not the authority on above board cheering, to be fair, but I will objectively, yet anecdotally, say that I thought it was they're super sweet boys. It was very above board. This was not like, there was no profanity. There was no heckling. Luke was just extraordinarily excited for his brother. And then the player afterwards went, "I didn't like what you said," or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, grow a pair. Like, you're a professional player. You should not be hearing anything from the stands. And don't cultivate a culture in the game where fans can't get rowdy.
Yeah.
And, Travis Redenmeyer talks a lot about this on his Tennis Sucks podcast. And it's like, yeah, we need fans. Like, we should be more hockey than tennis. Oh, golf clap. Be so elegant. You're so balletic. You're so this. It's like, no, get loud. Take your shirts off and draw stuff on your chest. Like, let's be crazy soccer fans. Like, bring that element and let the pro players foster that. And someone like Jake with his roars and his fire and his energy, like, all day long,
more.
Baby. That's what we need.
Yeah, and I think short of, the crowd sometimes accidentally cheering too soon and a point isn't over. They mean well, it's part of the excitement. And as long as you're not like saying things about someone's mom or insulting someone right as they're about to hit, or like trying to do that thing people do past a golf course where they're like, "You the man," and like you're about to take your backswing or something. I think it's all awesome.
And there's a reason that fans and players love Major League Pickleball in that environment, and I see absolutely no reason we can't bring that to everyday tour tournaments.
Yeah. I mean, look at basketball. Free throws, people are like flinging their like, I don't know, what do you call those? This is like cat toys.
Yeah.
So,
but yes, having Jake on the team was, being on Jake's team was really fun.
Yeah, Jake definitely was a stark contrast in the energy department, super supportive, and excited to see his star rise.
And I'm excited for my roster of male partners for the rest of the year, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about that on the next podcast, but it's going to be exciting.
Yeah. So we now get to move into by the numbers. We're going to talk a little bit about money. We're going to talk a little bit about how much pro players make and what their sponsorships can look like. But speaking of money, If you want to look money on the court, you need to get to pbgods.com just in time for Mother's Day. Get your mom decked out, but more importantly, get yourself decked out. And Jill talked about, to look good, you got to be uncomfortable. But if you want to also be comfortable
And look good.
get yourself in some PB Gods gear. I'm wearing the All Day I Dream About Pickleball.
I'm wearing the pickle
flowy
vibes
tank right
only,
now.
and I'm drinking out of my favorite mug that says "Tears of My Pickleball Enemies."
And if any of you out there have requests or ideas for PB Gods products you'd like to see, hit us up. This Pickleball Life, thispblife at gmail.com. Also, you can find us on Instagram at PB Gods. So it's been a fun year, kind of coming up with ideas and throwing things out and seeing what people get excited for. But back to real numbers. By the numbers, by the numbers.
We've had a lot of requests come in for more like data deep dives on the pod, more by the numbers. My background, for those of you that don't know, is I was CEO of Duper. Before that, I was head of commercial at a Series B SaaS company called Universal Tennis, or UTR, which is the rating system for tennis. And my background's always been in entrepreneurship and business. And so we've had a lot of requests for just to talk about like how much can a pro pickleball player make? What do endorsement deals look like? I was out to drinks and dinner with my mom the other night, and we were chatting with someone at the bar, and he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a pro pickleball player." And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "Can you make any money doing that?"
Yeah. And how much has that changed in the last 3 years?
And how much has that changed? That's a great question. So, we're all victims of our own experiences. Obviously, I have endorsement deals, and I'm not going to speak to what specifically my deals look like, but I'm going to obviously use those as data points, but also my friends who are in the sport, other top 5, top 10, top 20, top 30 players. So this is a mix of my personal experiences and anecdotal evidence from these conversations with other pro players. So if I were a brand right now wanting to get into pickleball, and especially if I've sponsored already MLP, APP, or PPA, or USA Pickleball, or other pickleball tournaments, I would all day long hop on sponsoring a pro player if you can find one that's actually going to put some sweat equity in, because it's pretty cheap. Like, I would say a really great brand deal right now, not paddle. I'll talk about paddle in a second. But a great brand deal right now in the sport would be between like $15,000 and $20,000 a year for a player. That would include, wearing the logo of the company on some part of your body, whether that's hat, hip of your shirt, sleeve of your shirt, middle of your shirt. It would include probably twice a week social media posts across all of your platforms at a minimum. It would include appearances, doing commercials, photo shoots, etc. Maybe doing pro-am aspects, like if the sponsors like, "Hey, can you come to our corporate office? We want you to be the pro. We're going to invite some of our own sponsors or our C-level execs or employees. Will you come do this?" So probably like I'd say that $15,000 to $20,000 range would get you 4 to 6 of those annual appearances, and that would be pretty good for like a good player, right? But then you can get probably like a 30 to 50th ranked player at somewhere, $500 a month, $6,000 a year to be repping your product. That would be kind of like a tier 2 sponsorship, I'd say.
Yeah. I don't think it's actually going to be that much of an issue in the mic. I think we're going to be fine.
And then we go and we talk about paddle. And paddle's very different. And I think that what's happening in the paddle business is you've got a couple major players really willing to cut checks. And if you're a top 10 player, your paddle deal could and should be up to 6 figures. And that could be in a combination of reimbursements and tournament entry fees, doubling of prize money, just a monthly flat fee, fees per post that you do for the brand. And then for some of these smaller paddle companies that are actually creating and building beautiful paddles, really effective paddles, if you want a top 10 player, that's going to come in some type of cash plus equity package. And so we're seeing some players getting some equity deals. And then we're seeing some players, frankly, starting their own paddle companies. I heard that for one of the biggest brands that we all know, it costs $5 for them. That's their total cost of paddle raw good development. So it's $5 per paddle. They're selling it for easily north of $175. So you see a lot, you see like almost like a paddle gold rush happening right now. And you do see some savvy players getting involved either in these equity positions or starting their own paddle businesses. But yeah, I'd say for that top 10 player, you should be getting close to some type of six figure deal easily from your paddle sponsor. I think if you're like 30 to 50, you could expect, anywhere from, up to $20,000-$25,000.
So adding those all up, you got someone like Tyson, say, who has like 6-7 of these sponsorships, and he's Tyson, so he might be making more.
I think easily. So to answer your question, for like the top 5 players, I think they're easily north of 300.
Yeah,
easily, and they've got a lot of those players have camps and ancillary businesses too that they've started. But from paddle endorsement deals, yeah, I think that's what we're seeing for these top 5 players.
Yeah, is somewhere in between 250 and 500.
I think 500 would be pushing, but
yeah,
I'm not privy to.
No, it's interesting to start guessing at these ancillary businesses and how much they're involved in and how much time is that.
I think if you're top 20, you're in that like 100 to 150 range right now.
Yeah. I was just trying to see if they have money list.
You could
like
be.
In golf, it's obviously like very public on just the tour part of things, but it looks like they've just included kind of what the payouts are, which I think is kind of still is interesting.
And I'd say like truly, just in the past 6 months, you've seen people in the top 20, top 25 feeling like they're making a living or that they can make a living.
But do you wanna go down the prize money for a PPA tour win? $8,000 for men's and women's doubles, mixed doubles, and then singles is way less, at basically just under $3,000 for winning. If you go into their what they call majors, that goes up to $10,000. And then $3,700 for singles. Now that's a little misleading because that's your team.
That's
right?
your
so
team.
It's really $5,000 each or $4,000.
That's what
each.
I was just going to say was specify that the 8,000 is the divided by 2.
And you can see this all on ppatour.com. But the round of 16 is where you start the payouts, and then in the back draw, you've got to get 5th to get the payout.
Yep.
So.
When I'm saying that, 100 to 150 number for being top 20, that includes prize money too. It's not just your endorsement deals.
Yeah, and if you're in that Triple Crown zone,
and
you're probably half prize money, half.
And by the way, there's probably
maybe
people listening to this podcast who are 17, 18, 19, 20 in the world, and they're like, I'm nowhere near that. What the heck? And then you probably have people who are 14, 13, or even 19 who are like, yeah, I'm above that. Like, I don't think there is this set standard. I'm just saying these are hypotheticals. This is what I know people are making. I'm not saying it's what every top 20 person is making, because it depends on, do you have a great agent? Are you a great promoter of yourself? What does your social media presence look like? How many followers do you have? Do you have a podcast? Do you have this? Are you creating content? So I just don't want to make a blanket statement that like every single person in the top X is making this, because that's not accurate.
Of course, that's not how it sounds. Yeah, and then just in comparison, of course, as well, MLP.
So I want to talk about Major League Pickleball is definitely more lucrative for the players in terms of what they can make in a weekend, or the majority of players, I should say.
Players.
That's
the PPA is great for those 5 players,
correct,
6 players, but MLP brings it down the road.
You're correct. So for more players, you can make more money in MLP on average than your typical PPA tour event. So you see a lot of players wanting more MLP events next year. And they want, 12 MLP events, 12 PPA events, 50-50, right? They want a chance to be buoyed by Annalie Waters, by Ben Johns. If you're ending up on that team, you probably have a pretty high likelihood of at least making it to the semifinals. And then you have to ask, and again, I can't speak for Annalie or Ben Johns, but Is that what they want? Or do they want to be on the tour, playing with the people that they choose, not having to buoy anybody? No one's riding their coattails.
Right.
And they're going to make probably not as much as they would winning MLP, but week in, week out, you add that up and they're
more predictable.
more predictable.
Perhaps. But
I don't know. I cannot speak for them.
you know, in evidence though, Annalie and Ben were in the finals the very first season against each other. Ben won the last MLP, the Daytona one. Annalie has still not quite
Elusive.
gotten that crown, but certainly has propelled her team to a lot of dream breakers that they have won.
Yeah. So it'll be really interesting next year
interesting.
just to see where things shake out. And I would maybe next week we can talk on the podcast a little bit more about what I'd like to see. You know, is it equal MLP to PPA? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah.
And really, is there evidence to support that one has more viewership than another, or one format has more viewership than another? We talk a lot about this bifurcation of interest between team-based and individual-based. And is there any other sport in the world that has an equivalent interest from viewers in team and individual? You have golf that has like Ryder Cup once every couple of years. That's cool.
Right.
Tennis
And
with
tennis.
Laver Cup once every couple of years.
And then Davis Cup and President's Cup are like the same thing, but the kind of lesser. If you're hearing some noises, it's our landscaping blowing the leaves around in our backyard.
I want to talk about this on our next podcast is, do I think that's going to go up or down? Because there were some occurrences this year that some
for more guaranteed kind of appearance fee money.
let's just say the industry was stitched together between PPA Vibe, MLP, in a way that now they'll have a lot more cohesion and control than the years prior where they had to fight over players. So will these numbers go up or will they go down? Let's find out next week.
or next year.
Or next year.
But yeah, definitely. Is there anything kind of you can speak to that's public knowledge about what the appearance fees are for these events? Because I think people know that there are appearance fees. That's not a secret, is it?
Yeah, one to $6,000 for, I think, a PPA event is the average appearance fee, and that's totally transparent. It's depending on what your ranking is on the tour.
And it kind of matches your sort of zone of predictable prize money.
Yeah, and it can go up, right? You can increase that appearance fee. And again, a lot of sponsors, especially paddle companies, will double any prize money or appearance fees that you garner from your
I do think
tour events.
I do think in a tour where you don't really get paid out unless you win the back draw or get in this round of 16, like you do kind of need to sustain the players that are showing up week in, week out, maybe not always getting on the podium, so to speak. So I think that's a good segue into the conclusion to the MLP Shuffle Draft. Exciting stuff. So in the Shuffle Draft, basically teams in the Challenger League are allowed to drop and swap during this set period of time, and then you're basically locked in unless a player gets injured. So we saw 9 different teams make a switch, some of which were forced, like the number 1 team had Rachel Summers unavailable. But other than that, what is your take on teams that decide to make a change versus stick with their lineup?
Yeah, so we saw the teams that made changes in Major League Pickleball last season really reaped benefits. That was the theme across the board. And teams that did really well previous season, like Atlanta Bouncers or Utah Black Diamonds, again, I'm speaking more about the Challenger division because that's where I play right now. But I'm sure that the parallels exist in Premier as well, that they did not do as well, the teams that made no changes but did have good results prior. So for us, it's really interesting. Dallas Pickleball Club finished second. We lost in the finals to Bay Area Breakers. We actually lost to them twice. And we have not made a change. And I'm not going to lie, like, that makes me a little nervous. I think what benefited us so well was just being smarter. Like, it's almost like golf, where you win or lose on the first tee. Like, the bet is won or lost on the first tee. How good did you negotiate? How many strokes did you get?
Right.
What was the game that you set out to play? And we are sticking with our recipe, and we will see how that goes.
Yeah. In fairness, the premier level teams cannot drop players
but
or
they can trade
or get any challenger level players, because this year you're playing for your next year's standings. So if you could just start grabbing all the best challenger players wherever you wanted, that wouldn't actually end up being fair to the challenger teams who have to, pick from a different pool. But the challenger is where all the kind of action happens, because you do have these complete drops, and
and talent is coming up so quickly. I mean, the women that were in the shuffle draft, really, really good. Like, you've got this Vivian Glozman, who made it to the semifinals of the PPA with Anna Bright last weekend. You've got Judith Castillo. You've got Tina Pisnik, former top 30 professional in the world, singles player from tennis. And those were all women available this season. And I think that that's going to elevate those teams drastically that we're able to get them. So it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight, and I'm ready. 1 month away. Let's go.
Yeah. Super fun stuff. San Clemente
Here we come.
is June, 16th? Something like that. They're doing PPA the week prior, and then MLP. So stay tuned to the podcast to get the lowdown on all of that as it comes. I'm personally excited to be playing in my first minor league pickleball tournament this weekend. So it's been interesting to go from kind of figuring out what minor league is a little bit on the inside last year, and now getting to be on the outside and being a part of a team. So I'm excited nonetheless.
That's awesome.
And
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
Minor league pickleball. Let's go.
So wish me luck.
Well, I think that concludes our pod. Definitely stick around for next week, because I'm going to do even more deeper dive on the income of players, on sponsorship. I'm going to answer any questions that you have. So drop it in the YouTube comments, please, or email thispblife@gmail.com. Anything you want us to deep dive a little bit more on from this topic.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about, does the future look like more MLP events, more tour-based events? And we're definitely going to talk a little bit more about upcoming tournaments. We're going to Atlanta next week. I'll be playing with Andre Deskew and maybe making an appearance back on the singles court. So we'll be talking about how do you get ready for something like singles when you're not accustomed to playing it. And we'll be answering, of course, more Dear Jilly B questions. And we look forward to seeing y'all next week.
And of course, the real cliffhanger of how did KW do in her minor league pickleball event?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the real money question. Well,
That's
thanks
the real
for
cliffhanger.
Thanks for being with us. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for subscribing. And thanks for telling your mom.
Tell all your friends.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
This Pickleball Life is a Tomahawk production, 100% organic, self-made, and homegrown. Music by K-Dubs, editing by K-Dubs and Jilly B. Check out pbgods.com and use code PBLifers for 10% off your next order. Do you have a question for Jilly B? Email us at thispblife@gmail.com to be included in future episodes. Don't forget to click subscribe.
This Pickleball Life.